Now it is my turn to introduce one of my colleagues from the House of Lords. That is Lord Ahmed of Wimbledon. He is the Minister for the Middle East and for North Africa. He is also, I might say, a formidable partner to have in the House of Lords. As a former minister myself, I know how much briefing you get overnight, and I must say you always master your brief brilliantly well. So may I invite you, please, to come and address us.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Good morning, and to all our guests who are joining us from across the Gulf, from across the Middle East and North Africa. On behalf of the British government, ahlan wa sahlan. You are most welcome here. And as my dear colleague and friend, Baroness Simmons said, then Liz, may I also congratulate you. You do a tremendous amount of work. And Liz is often lobbying me on the importance of this organization. And I assure you that being here today is testament also to how across government, across parties, indeed as a country, we regard the importance of these kind of meetings in strengthening our relationship. I also congratulate the Secretary General and actually congratulate the organizers, because they often say you have one Ahmed on stage. When you look across the stage, I believe we have three today, including the Secretary General of the Arab League. So there's great organizational capacity and capability put in there. But as we join here this morning in the spirit of friendship, in the spirit of collaboration, it would be remiss of me, indeed for any of us, not to begin on reflecting on what is happening right now across Israel, Gaza, and indeed, sadly, in the West Bank as well. The intensity of what's happening is reflected on the level of engagement. I myself, I've just returned from Bahrain, where the Manama dialogue was taking place, and in recognizing the important role Bahrain play in that respect, the dialogue itself, and the Secretary General is here, he and I actually were on the same panel, was dominated by events in the Middle East. And equally after that, I immediately fast-footed over to Doha, and there are important talks taking place, and I was able to engage quite directly there, and I again acknowledge and recognize the important role Qatar are playing at this important time. In bridging that particular gap, we need to move forward. We need to see a sense, the space that where people who are suffering, in Gaza in particular, right now, that suffering is going on for far too long. No one, unless you're directly impacted, can comprehend the pain and suffering. I visited Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories about 11 days ago, and I saw directly the challenges which were being faced by people in the West Bank. In Gaza, it's really hard to comprehend the innocent Palestinian lives that are being lost, the women, the children. You know, I've been very clear from the start, and I'm delighted through my very close friends. Liz, you talked about how grateful we are, but also we recognize the strength of the ambassadorial representation to the United Kingdom. We really do get the cream of the crop, if I can put it that way. And looking across, I can see three of my great friends, the ambassadors of Egypt, Jordan, and Kuwait sitting there, and I'm sure there's others here as well. Thank you for all you are doing, because it is important at this time that our conversations are frank and candid, and where we have differing perspectives, that ultimately the goal we all want to see, which is peace in the Middle East. And let me put on record once again that that cannot be achieved until we see the abhorrent acts that took place in Israel, of course, on the 7th of October. And let me be very clear, make it very personal. And I speak as a Muslim, if I may. Any act of terror by anyone, anywhere, including those committed by Hamas, are against every sense of our common humanity, against every sense of the faith I follow, indeed of any faith or belief around the world. But equally, we should now really focus and ensure that what's happening on the suffering of the people of Gaza is put to an end. And in this, if I may particularly commend both my dear friend Mana Labas, who plays an incredible role as ambassador to Jordan for the work that Jordan is doing, but also recognize through the ambassador of Egypt, and again, thank you, Sharif, for all you do, the role that Egypt is currently playing in providing that glimmer currently through the Rafah crossing. And I make no excuses or apologies for focusing my initial comments on those particular events, because Your Excellencies, Your Royal Highnesses, friends, if we do not address that central pivotal issue, we will not see progress, and we will be back here again. Now, I don't know, in the finite time, Baroness Simmons talked about her time of a minister, and as my time as currently serving as the Minister of State for the Middle East and North Africa. But one thing I do know of, that every day, every ounce of my effort, everything that we're seeking to do should be focused on trying to shift that dial. Peace is not impossible. It's a difficult pathway ahead. But you know what? We should never give up hope. We should pray and work every sinew of our efforts, everything we have, in whatever role, in business, in NGOs, in diplomacy, in politics, whoever we are, wherever we are, to do our bit to actually try and deliver that vision for a lasting, sustainable peace. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, hard as it is to move oneself from those particular issues, we also recognize, importantly, that our discussions here today will center on so many important issues. Artificial intelligence, indeed, the Prime Minister only a few weeks ago hosted an important international conference in that respect. It was the former Foreign Secretary who brought it to the United Nations as an issue. But that's not where we are alone. From trade to health, from security to finance, we are working together to tackle the challenges we face, one particular one that I focused on already, but also numerous other challenges of climate, which we all face together. But also, importantly, with all of you, it is the people that matter, of unlocking the immense potential and opportunities that lie ahead. As I reflected on what I was going to say this morning, just last week, for example, I hosted the UK-Algeria Strategic Dialogue alongside my dear friend, Foreign Minister Attaf, where we focused on opportunities to increase our burgeoning trade relationship. Our trade relationship, and I'm just using this as one example because it's fresh in my mind from last week, has grown by 24% since 2022 with Algeria. Currently at 3 billion, but with ambitious plans to do more. Companies such as AstraZeneca, Unilever, GSK, Petrofac are already well established in Algeria, and many are expanding their operations. And this is a wider series of structured dialogues, looking at all aspects of our relationships. We've just celebrated the 70th anniversary of the Kuwaiti Investment Office. We've had royal visits in, we've had strategic dialogues with Kuwait as well. Again, and I'm thank you to you, brother, for the immense effort you've been putting in since your arrival. Many of you will remember his predecessor, but one thing is very important, that the energy of the new ambassador has been reflective on the strength of our bilateral relationship as well. But equally, we have had other structured dialogues with Bahrain recently, Tunisia, where we focused on areas such as climate, education, transport, and much more as well. And as I alluded earlier, both myself and the Secretary General were just at the Manama dialogue, where important conversations took place on all these particular issues and more. And it was reflective of the strength and indeed the depth of the attendance, as we see this morning, on how important people regard these important organizations, but also the convening of such meetings. Just focusing on global health, the UK has a proud record of working with the Arab world and across the MENA region to strengthen systems in developing countries, drive innovations in care, develop new vaccines. On food security, today, our Prime Minister is hosting a global summit just a short distance from here. Indeed, I'll be speaking at that a bit later on, alongside our friends from the United Arab Emirates and Somalia, galvanizing action to end hunger. And a year ago, the United Kingdom launched a partnership with Saudi Arabia, with the King Salman relief, to tackle food insecurity in Somalia, where we're already seeing results with 130,000 vulnerable people being supported directly. And we are signing, not just in terms of trade relationships, but development relationships with our partners across the Middle East and North Africa, because together, the sum of the whole, we can deliver so much more. Of course, this is also when we look at the issues of COP28, which has been mentioned. Congratulations to Egypt. They took on the chair from us, and this exchange of baton is important, and going on to the UAE. We work with the Arab world directly because we have to accelerate green growth, and we are working with countries across the piece to strengthen areas such as renewable energy and green industry, including we're now seeing in Oman, I believe, electric buses on the road as well. And finally, just on the UK GCC trade agreement, again at the Manama Dialogue, I met with the Secretary General, my dear friend Jassim, who's the Secretary General of the GCC, and we are progressing that well. For the economies of the Arab world to become less dependent on fossil fuels, we must open doors for entrepreneurs, many of you here today, to take advantage of new technologies, opportunities we can only grasp by removing barriers and facilitating growth, and working with our Gulf partners. That's why, for example, in very practical terms, we are, and indeed we are piloting right now with Qatar, the new visa-free agreements that we've reached with several countries across the Gulf. And that's demonstrable, that we shouldn't just talk about things, we should help to facilitate action that deliver that people-to-people links. And a trade deal, in my mind, with the GCC will boost our collaboration across a huge range of sectors, creating many business opportunities, and importantly, jobs on both sides, and attracting new investment. UK exports to Arab countries in 2022 was 38 billion, an increase of 20%, but there's so much more that can be achieved. In conclusion, to all of you, I say I hope your deliberations today are both productive and do deliver. There is much we can do together, collaboratively, collectively, working together towards common goals. And I'm sure there will be many engaging discussions. Because after all, and a politician would say this, it's only through talking, but dialogue matters ultimately when we can deliver on those conversations and discussions. And it's forums like this that help to make it happen. And together we can. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, Minister, thank you for that. That was some inspiring stuff, and we were delighted to hear it. May I now ask the Secretary General of the Arab League, His Excellency Mr. Ahmed Aboul Gheit, if he would be kind enough to come and speak to us. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good morning. And if I may deliver my statement in Arabic, since I am the Secretary General of the League of Arab States, and it is important that we should create some balance between English and Arabic, as it is the third British Arab Economic Summit. So allow me please to deliver it in Arabic. Thank you very much, Baroness Simon. حضور الكريم، يسرني بداية أن أشارككم افتتاح القمة الاقتصادية العربية البريطانية في نسختها الثالثة. للأسف لم أتمكن من المشاركة في نسخة العام الماضي، النسخة الثانية، حيث جاء موعد انعقادها تماما مع موعد انعقاد القمة العربية في الجزائر في نوفمبر 22. أعتبر هذه النسخة الثالثة فرصة سانحة لتعزيز التعاون بين الجانبين العربي والبريطاني، والعلاقة بينهما علاقة قديمة جدا. وأتقدم بالشكر لغرفة التجارة العربية البريطانية واتحاد الغرف العربية على جهودهما لتنظيمهما، والشكر موصول أيضا لكل من ساهم في تيسير هذا الجهد. لقد جئت إلى هنا من منطقة تشهد مرة أخرى حربا ذات أبعاد خطيرة نعيش خلالها أياما عصيبة على وقع العدوان الإسرائيلي على غزة. هناك سوف أتحدث كثيرا عن الوضع في غزة، وبالتالي أعتقد أن نبقي على التصفيق حتى النهاية، وإلا فلن أتمكن من تكملة هذا البيان. هناك شعور عميق بفقدان الثقة في القيم الإنسانية المشتركة التي يتبناها العالم، بعد أن ظهر أن الكثير من الدول الغربية على وجه الخصوص لا تولي ذات القيمة لحياة البشر، وتتعامل مع الحروب وضحاياها بقدر هائل من الازدواجية في المعايير. أقول هذا أخذا في الاعتبار أن الكثيرين يقولون أن هناك قيم مشتركة عديدة، وأن العالم تجمعه القيم المشتركة. وهنا نرصد بالتأكيد في الشرق الأوسط وفي المنطقة العربية أن الكثير من هذه القيم تطبق فقط في العالم الغربي وبمفاهيم غربية، وينسى العالم الغربي أن هذه القيم هي قيم إنسانية تغطي هذا الكوكب بكامله. لا يستطيع الرأي العام في المنطقة العربية أو غيرها الاقتناع بأي مبرر يساق لقتل أكثر من 12,000 إنسان فلسطيني، أغلبهم من النساء والأطفال. لا شيء يبرر هذا، ولا توصيف لذلك الفعل سوى بأنه جريمة مكتملة الأركان. هذه الجريمة يجب أن يوضع لها حد وفوراً، وأن يحاسب مرتكبيها. هذا ما يدركه كل أصحاب الضمائر الحية في العالم، بما في ذلك مئات الآلاف الذين تظاهروا هنا في هذه العاصمة البريطانية العريقة مطالبين بوقف فوري لإطلاق النار. إن هذه الأصوات الحرة مسموعة ومقدرة جدا لدينا في المنطقة العربية، كما نقدر مواقف كل من رفض القتل بالجملة والعقاب الجماعي والانتقام، تماما كما نشعر بخيبة أمل عميقة في المنظومة الدولية التي تتيح لهذه الجريمة أن تستمر أمام سمع وبصر العالم كله لأسابيع بلا توقف. وهي بهذا ليست عاراً على مرتكبيها فقط، ولكن على المنظومة الدولية كلها، وأقصد بها الأمم المتحدة التي نعتبرها فشلت في توفير الحماية للمدنيين الأبرياء من ويلات حرب انتقامية تشنها آلة عسكرية لا تعرف رحمة ولا تعترف بقانون، بل وتنفذ إرادة قوة احتلال غاصب. ويجب أن يتنبه الجميع أن ما يحدث في غزة وفي الأراضي الفلسطينية في الضفة الغربية المحتلة، وهما يمثلان الأراضي الفلسطينية المحتلة، أن كل هذا الأمر يقوم بسبب الاحتلال. وإذا كان البعض يحاول النفي عن الاحتلال، وجود الاحتلال، فهو في الحقيقة أمر غريب المنطق ولا ينبغي أن يكون. يجب الاعتراف بأن هناك احتلال، ولأن قيمة النفس البشرية واحدة في كل مكان، وانطلاقا من قيمنا الإنسانية والدينية التي تؤمن بضرورة تجنيب ويلات الأعمال العسكرية، فقد كانت لدينا في العالم العربي الشجاعة الكافية لكي نقول وبشكل واضح إننا ندين قتل أو استهداف المدنيين على إطلاقه. هناك قتلى من المدنيين الإسرائيليين قتلوا في 7 أكتوبر، وهو أمر ندين قتل المدنيين الإسرائيليين. وكنا نتوقع من الجميع أن يتخذ نفس الموقف الأخلاقي والمبدئي، فلا شيء على الإطلاق يبرر الهجمات على المستشفيات والمدارس ودور العبادة. لا شيء يبرر الخراب الذي أنزلته قوات الاحتلال بسكان قطاع غزة. وعندما اجتمعت 57 دولة عربية وإسلامية في قمة استثنائية بالرياض، كانت الرسالة واضحة: المطلوب وقف فوري لإطلاق النار، والمطلوب آلية مستدامة لإدخال المساعدات لأكثر من 2 مليون فلسطيني يتعرضون حالياً ولحظياً لكارثة إنسانية بعد أن انهارت كافة نظم الحياة في القطاع، وتوقفت أغلب المستشفيات عن العمل، واقترب الناس من حد المجاعة، ونحن على أعتاب فصل الشتاء، بما يزيد من احتمالات انتقال الأمراض المعدية. وبعد فشله لعدة مرات، أصدر مجلس الأمن منذ أيام قليلة قراراً يدعو لهدن إنسانية وممرات لإدخال المساعدات. خطوة صغيرة ولكنها مشجعة، ونأمل أن يوضع حد نهائي وفوري لهذه المأساة. إننا أمام لحظة الحقيقة، وكل يوم يمر من دون وقف هذه الحرب الشريرة قد يزيد من مشاعر الكراهية والعداء. وبكل الأمانة أقول لكل من أتحدث إليهم من أصدقائنا وزملائنا الذين نتعامل معهم في العالم الغربي: أفيقوا، تتركون هذه الحرب تستمر بكل أبعادها التي تقود إلى قدر هائل من عدم الثقة، من الكراهية، من الضيق. أفيقوا إلى خطورة ما يحدث الآن، وسوف تتراكم أحداثه ويكون له رد فعل بالغ الخطورة في سنوات وعقود قادمة. نطلب إنهاء الاحتلال وإقامة الدولة الفلسطينية التي تعيش إلى جوار إسرائيل في أمن وسلام لكليهما. إن الحديث عن حرب غزة لا ينبغي أن يأخذنا عن هدف هذا هذه القمة. وحضراتكم جميعا تعملون في مجال التبادل التجاري والاستثماري، وتعلمون كم يتأثر مجالكم وأعمالكم بانعدام الاستقرار في هذه المنطقة القريبة من البحر الأبيض المتوسط وأوروبا والعالم الغربي. إن الاستقرار الذي ننشده للمنطقة العربية لن يقوم إلا عندما يتأسس فيها سلام عادل وشامل ودائم وتحل القضية الفلسطينية. لقد روج رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي لعدة سنوات واستمر يروج القول بأننا نمد أيدينا إلى العالم العربي وأننا نقيم علاقات مع العرب ولننسى القضية الفلسطينية فسوف تحل نفسها بنفسها، وهذا لن يتحقق. القضية الفلسطينية هي أساس وجوهر النزاع والوضع في الشرق الأوسط، وعلى الجميع أن يسعى لحلها وحتى نقيم هذا الاستقرار والسلام في مجمل البحر الأبيض المتوسط والمنطقة العربية. إن الروابط القديمة والمتجددة بين المملكة المتحدة والدول العربية، ومثلما قلت هي روابط تشكل رصيداً مهماً يمكن البناء عليه لتعزيز التعاون المشترك، لا سيما في ظل الفرص الكبيرة التي تتيحها الخطة التنموية التي أطلقتها بريطانيا بعد خروجها أو مغادرتها للاتحاد الأوروبي. إن التبادل التجاري العربي البريطاني وبالرغم من المنافسة الكبيرة التي يتعرض لها من القوى الاقتصادية التقليدية وتلك الناشئة، إلا أنه يبقى أمراً مهماً، إذ بلغ 57 مليار دولار نهاية عام 2021. أتحدث عن التبادل التجاري، وهو رقم مرشح للارتفاع في ظل تزايد الواردات البريطانية من مواد الطاقة بعد اندلاع الحرب في أوكرانيا، وأيضاً بفضل توقيع بريطانيا اتفاقات شراكة مع عدد من الدول العربية ساهمت في تضاعف استثماراتها لا سيما في منطقة الخليج العربي على نحو لافت. وأشير في هذا السياق إلى تحسن مناخ الاستثمار في العديد من الدول العربية، وهو ما تؤكده الأرقام الصادرة عن المؤسسة العربية لضمان الاستثمار التابعة لجامعة الدول العربية، حيث تشير إلى ارتفاع عدد مشروعات الاستثمار الأجنبي المباشر في عام 2022 إلى 1617 مشروعاً بقيمة 200 مليار دولار، مع توقعات باستمرار ذلك في عام 23. ومن أجل تعزيز هذا التعاون والارتقاء به إلى مستويات أفضل، ستواصل جامعة الدول العربية والمنظمات العاملة تحت مظلتها، ومنها اتحاد الغرف العربية وغرفة التجارة العربية البريطانية، ستواصل مسيرتها لتسهيل التبادل التجاري العربي مع المملكة المتحدة بما يخدم المقاصد المشتركة للطرفين. ختاماً، وأسف للإطالة، أن الموضوعات التي ستناقشها هذه القمة ومنها المياه والأمن الغذائي وتغيير المناخ والصحة والاقتصاد الرقمي الذكاء الاصطناعي، هي كلها ملفات ذات أولوية لدى الدول العربية ولدى بريطانيا بالتأكيد. وأنني على ثقة بأن هذه المداولات القادمة خلال هذا اليوم ستخرج بنتائج وتوصيات تخدم المصالح المشتركة للدول العربية ولبريطانيا وللجميع كافة. شكرا لحضراتكم وحسن الاستماع.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your speech, which I'm sure many of your thoughts were very much appreciated by those who are here. Thank you for that. May I now, you will find on your programmes that there was to be an address for the Minister of Industry and Commerce from Bahrain. Sadly, he is unable to be here, so I'm now going to ask Oliver Christian, who is His Majesty's Trade Commissioner for the Middle East and Pakistan, to address us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone at the Arab-British Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to speak today. Thank you to the panel members. Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, there is more that brings us together that keeps us apart, and that includes business and trade, which is why it's more important than ever to support companies doing business with each other in the Arab world and the UK. The Department for Business and Trade, based here in the UK, as well as in many embassies and high commissions around the world, are integral to delivering on this vital objective. As His Majesty's Trade Commissioner for the Middle East and Pakistan, my priorities are threefold. Firstly, to break down trade barriers using all of the tools as a government that we have at our disposal in order to lessen red tape, to foster the best conditions for mutual economic growth. Secondly, to continue to grow exports and investments between the UK and the Middle East, seeing our bilateral trade and investment grow and be felt, whether our people are in Manchester or in Muscat. And thirdly, to secure a modern and comprehensive free trade agreement between the United Kingdom and the GCC, making it easier for our businesses to export our goods and services in both directions and invest in each other's economies. Currently, those economies are valued at around a combined GDP of an astonishing $5 trillion. My team comprises of 100 people spread across 11 markets, including Jordan, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, and the 6 countries of the GCC. They're complemented by DBT teams here and across the world, including those in the wider Middle East and North Africa region. You've heard a few figures today, but I'll give you a few more. Our bilateral trade figures for countries of the Arab League stand at a staggering £80 billion in 2022. That's an increase of 31% from 2019 pre-COVID figures, and a huge 64% from just 2021. UK exports to the Arab League in 2022 surpassed pre-COVID numbers by 14%. And our imports from the Arab League in 2022 were £37 billion, surpassing again the figures of 2029 by up to 58%. The greatest share of our trade and investment is with countries of the GCC, where bilateral trade stood at around £61 billion. And as a bloc, the GCC represents the UK's 7th largest export destination. In my relatively new role as His Majesty's Trade Commissioner, having only been in for 2 months, I've travelled quite extensively across the GCC, and I look forward to seeing all the 11 countries that are in my region. On my travels, I've seen for myself the vast opportunity across the Middle East and the Arab world. You're known for your traders, for your business people, for your entrepreneurship, for your resilience, and as I found out personally, your hospitality. From port to souk, from majlis to boardroom, the energy and ambition and drive is palpable. And it's matched by energy, ambition, and drive here in the United Kingdom. I want to harness that energy, convening government partnerships across every area of trade and investment to create a strong foundation for business to thrive, doing only what government can do so that business can get on with what they need to do. Our trade policy priority is to make it as easy as possible for our businesses to trade with each other. We have an association agreement in place in Jordan, the Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco, which facilitate trade between these markets and the UK. For example, in Jordan, we are in the process of setting up the UK-Jordan Business Council, which will focus on work streams as diverse as energy, transport, healthcare, food, and tourism. As I've mentioned, and others have mentioned, the free trade agreement, we're making excellent progress. Last month, we concluded round 5 of the negotiations, and you'll hear much more about this later on when the UK's chief negotiator, Tom Winton, is here on the panel later today. As we strive to break down these barriers, we free companies from bureaucracy that hold them back. Just look around at what we're doing on barriers, for example, in Saudi Arabia, giving UK aquaculture companies access to the kingdom for their farmed seafood products. But it's not just this. We're putting measures in place to help your business access the UK as an export destination. One example is our developing countries trading scheme, which with countries like Algeria are able to export 92% of its products to the UK tariff-free. As some of the panelists have mentioned, high-level investment is also a priority for the UK and for governments in the Middle East. We're seeking strategic partnerships with like-minded nations whose priorities align with ours. Our government-to-government investment partnerships are already in place with the UAE, Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, and Kuwait. And this means tens of billions of pounds of investment, but also cooperation, knowledge transfer, R&D, clean energy, and advanced materials as sectors, just to name a few. Government-to-government partnerships extend into specific sectors as well, including agriculture, and we're talking about food security later today. On agriculture, we have a pavilion that's just opened at the International Horticultural Expo in Doha, which is also championing the collaboration in agri-tech and clean tech more broadly. And I'd encourage everybody to go and visit the English Garden that was opened by David Beckham last month. In financial services, the UK-Saudi Arabia and UK-UAE MOUs will facilitate closer ties in areas of capital markets, green finance, and insurance, among many others. Our clean energy MOU in the UAE includes commitments to share knowledge and expertise in energy and cooperating on new technologies like hydrogen. And in terms of multilateral G2G engagement, as my Lord mentioned earlier, the Prime Minister hosted the first global AI summit, safety summit, earlier this month. A declaration signed by 29 countries, including Saudi Arabia and the UAE, committing to work together in an inclusive manner. This will be the foundation of our future economies and services. Of course, next week is going to be COP28, hosted for a second time in an Arab nation, and it will be a catalyst for global cooperation. Personally, it will be an honour for me to welcome His Majesty the King, the Prime Minister, our new Foreign Secretary, known to many friends in the Middle East, Kemi Badenoch, and many other members of the Cabinet, ministers, and UK businesses to Dubai. Laying the groundwork for G2G is one thing, but business, especially SMEs, need more. And that's where my teams on the ground in the Middle East and Pakistan, as well as Africa, led by my fellow HMTC, John Humphreys, come in. Supporting exporters is the mainstay of what we do in DBT through exhibitions, trade shows, missions, and matchmaking, and so much more. Just last week it was International Trade Week, which took place, where we encouraged many in the UK to venture out into the Middle East and look at the opportunities in your markets. Indeed, I see a role for a complementary connection between our embassies, both in post, but also here in London. And I'd like to establish a closer relationship between those embassies in order to find our common objectives and support our businesses. UK finance is an integral part of the UK's government's offer, and UKF helps UK exporters secure insurance, working capital when they win business, and also introduces them to the incredibly high-quality UK supply chain. This includes support in over 60 currencies, including lines of credit, and in particular, Sharia-compliant finance. I now have I have country heads for UAE based in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, and Morocco, covering the whole region. So if there's any questions from project owners, please just let me know. The Arab British Chamber of Commerce and the UK UAE Business Council, represented here today by Lord Lister and the Saudi British Joint Business Council, and many others, are true and trusted friends. Thank you all for what you do. Now, I find that in my new job, one question comes up a lot, which is visas. And I'm very glad that Lord Ahmed has already mentioned the fantastic new initiative, the Electronic Travel Authorization ETA scheme, that has soft launched in the Middle East. The scheme is currently working through, and we're very lucky to have Yolanda later today, who will talk on the Entrepreneurs of the Future panel, and we'll be able to give you some more information on that. It's a pleasure to be back in London, and while you're here, you will see much of what the UK has to offer. And Patricia Yates, the CEO of Visit Britain, will join the COP28 and Sustainable Development panel to explore the importance of tourism in the sector and fostering cultural and economic exchange, as well as business and trade. And then lastly, Lord Dominic Johnson, our Investment Minister, will be on hand this afternoon to close the summit. Thank you once more to the Arab British Chamber of Commerce for bringing us together today, to Baroness, and to everybody on the panel. Your Excellencies, my lords and ladies and gentlemen, if we are to sustain an emerging vision, it's incumbent on us, all of us, to work shoulder to shoulder to support business and help them succeed, because through business, that is how livelihoods are supported. That economic growth is important to succeed, especially in this region, especially today. Shukran, thank you.
Well done, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, of course, Lord Ahmed, I fully understand. You have business to attend to. May I now invite Mr. Samir Nass, who is, of course, the President of the Union of Arab Chambers, to address her. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Baroness. Thank you, Baroness. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the business communities of Arab countries, I feel highly privileged and honored to meet with you today and to witness the third edition of the Arab-British Economic Summit. And special thanks to the Arab-British Chamber of Commerce for organizing this crucial summit and for bringing together government officials and senior executives and decision makers from across the UK and the Arab world. This summit will allow us to build upon the successes of economic relations between the UK and the Arab world. Some of the most pressing challenges that we should tackle today includes global conflicts, supply chain issues, disrupted food and energy market, and high inflation. We see adaptation and innovation should be included in businesses for survival. Furthermore, environmental sustainability and renewable energy should be at the forefront of the agenda of all stakeholders. Especially companies should transform their businesses, and this includes increasing energy efficiency in the operations and integrating environmental, social, and governance, ESG, targets, as well as exploring projects and initiatives within the sustainability fields. This is not crucial to our future survival only, but also provides opportunities for increased economic activities and innovation among the private sector. Distinguished guests, this summit is an opportunity for us to explore these issues and to discuss potential solutions and policies and prioritize these policies to create these solutions. Our agenda today includes discussions on food security and the finance industry and e-commerce, artificial intelligence, environmental sustainability, entrepreneurship, and more. The purpose of our gathering is to align our vision to these topics and to achieve mutual economic gains. Well, the fourth round of negotiations for free trade agreement, FTA, between the UK and the GCC took place between 17th and 28th of July of this year. We are optimistic that this agreement will allow the GCC countries to further bolster trade and investment with the UK and to grow our various economies. The Arab world is currently going through fast-paced changes and developments that are driven by economic diversification strategies. There is a strong focus on major infrastructure projects, digital transformation, and sustainability. Moreover, the UK has a highly advanced and diversified economy, and it is considered a strategic partner to the Arab world. As such, there are exciting opportunities for collaboration between Arab countries and the UK. We hope that today's summit will allow us to build on our existing ties and boost our growth and development, and to meet our joint aspiration. Before I conclude, gentlemen, I have something to say regarding what's happening in the Arab world. I say that prosperity cannot exist without stability. And what we see in our eyes today with Palestine, no human on this earth will accept this to happen to him. I think it's enough, 78 years of misery with the Palestinian people that's taking place. 78 years is more than enough. The apartheid, the ethnic cleansing, the, what should I say? It's heart-paining to see this. The children that are being killed, more than 70% of those that were killed in Gaza are women, children, infants. When is this cycle of violence is going to stop? It's about time that we, businessmen, British, Arab, and everyone, should speak up and influence their governments to create a solution. I don't know how can we see ourselves as humans and we just move with our days every day, and every day there are people being dead. I don't know how can anybody sleep seeing these images in the television. And I'm really sorry, Baroness, the main media has been misrepresenting the real truth, what's happening on Earth. And I think a solution should be taking place, and it's high time that the conflicting parties should sit down and find a permanent solution, and as soon as possible. And before that, open the gates for the food. Let people have food, water, electricity. You cannot just keep quiet like that. And I say, Viva Palestine. Thank you.